Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. So lovely Jenn here. I've worked with right from the beginning, basically, of her brain retraining, but where she's got all these kids in and out of her house now, and she was like, "I hope I could do this." These little babies that she's babysitting. So Jenn has a powerful story as well. So Jenn, I'll just give you the floor. You go ahead and share.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm juggling today, but I definitely wanted to come on here and talk to you all. So I wrote mine down, and I'll just try and touch on a few things in my story. My name is Jenn. I'm married to my husband, and I have 6 children. So we have 3 adopted children and 3 biological. And I want to say it's been a journey, because we've gone through different things with our kids. And so my symptoms started, I want to say, probably about 8 years ago, after what I now can look back at and see as like my perfect storm. So we had adopted our last daughter, and she was almost 5, and she needed open heart surgery out of state. So I had to travel with her to Boston and be away from my kids for, I thought was going to be 3 weeks, and it ended up turning into 2 months. And most of that time was in the cardiac ICU. Sorry.
It's okay.
So, yeah, being in the ICU, I witnessed so many things. My own daughter coding, other, kids coding, and I'd go in one day and the next day a child wouldn't be there, that was there the day before. So it was traumatic. So, I had 2 months in Boston, and then we came home. Because things weren't crazy enough, we had decided to sell our house and build a house when Kristen went into the hospital, because we were like, oh, no one will be there. My kids were going to be somewhere else, and the house would be, just there. So we're like, if it sells, it sells. And of course it sold when we were in Boston doing surgery. So we moved in with friends who had just finished their basement. So everything was new, new carpet, new floor, new furniture, paint, you name it. It was brand new. And then during that time, my daughter started to have some more issues with her heart. So we had another 4 months, in the hospital again, but so more trauma, basically. And then when our house was finished being built, we moved in, and of course, everything, was new, some new furniture, everything was gassing again. I didn't understand like chemicals and gassing and just how trauma and all that worked out, but that would have been, my perfect storm. So soon after we moved to our new house, I started to experience symptoms of extreme fatigue, brain fog, body aches. I could barely walk. I'd have to look up the stairs and decide whether I could go up those stairs. And if I needed to come back down, could I get back down? My kids were, basically trying to help with food and doing like daily tests in the house. I was basically here, but I was like, just not with it at all. So after going to some doctors, they couldn't really tell me what was wrong. I knew something was wrong. My body hurt so bad. I was in so much pain, and, I could see, the symptoms of everything. I knew something was wrong with me. Some of the doctors, they just didn't know based on a blood work. They told me I had Epstein-Barr, and everything else, they could not figure out what it was. So over time, I went to muscle response testing. I saw someone who did bioenergetic screening, many other holistic doctors and different things. And through some of those, I had found that I had, EBV, which I knew, Lyme. With all of that, I had developed chronic fatigue syndrome, many food sensitivities, and also chemical sensitivities. So I was really in a rough place. And I think my symptoms lasted for almost 7 years, really. And I kind of had periods where things would get a little bit better, but I could just never get better. I always felt awful. So my husband started to do some research and he found brain retraining. And he really insisted that God was leading him to like tell me about brain retraining. And he really wanted me to do it. However, I was kicking and screaming probably for a little while because I was like, this is one more thing. And how do I know that this is going to work? And soon after, I'd also started seeing a functional med doctor, and he had heard of brain retraining. So he was very positive about it. And he said, I know that it's helped people. So I heard him, and then I just got to a place where I figured, what am I going to lose? Like I just need to try it. So I jumped in. My husband had found Bria's testimony, which was just an amazing story. And that spoke, volumes to me when I heard it. And, I think soon after, we set up an appointment. I think he set the appointment up to meet with Bria first, actually.
He emailed
Yep, he did. And so we met and we went over everything. And when we met, I just knew Bria was the coach that I needed. Like I knew I needed her, but I knew I also couldn't do this alone. So I knew just with her being a mom and her having just the testimony she had, I knew she was the one I needed to be with, basically. Sorry. So within a month of me meeting with Bria, like I really started to see some things change. I went away to New York with my kids for a weekend, and we stopped at, a convenience store nearby, and I just got a few foods that I hadn't eaten in many, many, many years. And I just was going for it. Like, I'm going to start this and I'm just going to do this. And we went and I ate some new foods that before would have reacted really badly for me. And I didn't have a reaction at all. And I knew at that moment that it was working. I also could start to go places that I had avoided before. My body wasn't as achy as it had been. So I knew it was definitely working. But like any journey, it's not, a straight line. So I had ups and downs. And sometimes I just wanted to give up. Somehow I believe God knew I needed Bria too, because usually at the moments I was wanting to give up, I had an appointment with her. Sorry, I did not think I'd be like this. But anyway, like I always had an appointment already set up with her, and I would get on, we'd talk, we'd pray, and I would even get off of my meeting with her and I would feel better, like even just after our meeting, So, anyway, I'm really thankful for Bria. To be able to do the journey with her. In fact, I think I just told her the other day, like I miss talking to her. Sorry. Anyway, so as you can see, like through this, like I really just, I kept persevering through it, faithfully trusting that God would heal me. I knew he wanted more for me. And I knew like this was not where he wanted me. So I would use, his verses to remind me daily of his truth. And I really trusted in his plan for me. And I reminded myself of this often. So through this, I started to see that I was getting my life back. God is so good. As the months went on, I saw continuous changes. I started my brain retraining last July. I want to say, I feel like July last year. And like by Christmas, there were stores I would avoid because of chemicals and, just smells. And we went to a store near Christmas time. And I actually looked at my husband and I was like, I think they got rid of the smelly things in the store. And he's like, he looked at me and he kind of laughed and he's like, no, look behind you. Like they're right there. But I honestly couldn't even smell it anymore. Like it just went away. So like I've noticed that too, just being in different places anymore, like things that I was like triggered or I would just notice more, I just don't even notice as much anymore. So it's great. Before I couldn't eat anywhere besides my house really, so I'd have to plan for food and take it with me, or if we'd go away for a weekend, we'd have like all this food in the car along with 6 kids and all the stuff. It was crazy. And now I can just go anywhere I want and eat whatever I want. It's a choice now, and I'm just so grateful and thankful for that. So now, like she said, I have my kids and I watch my neighbors' 2 kids, so a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I'm living my life like I should be living my life. I was really wanted to run a half marathon before I had gotten sick, and I was on track to do that. And recently I started to train for that again. And last week I ran 4 miles. My body didn't hurt. And, I'm on the way there and it just feels so good. Like I probably didn't think I would ever get there, but here I am. And, it's been amazing. So my brain retraining journey was about 8 months from start to being completely healed with Bria. When I started my journey, it was probably about 8 months. And I still use the tools I have learned, to help me at times. And I think it's going to be like a lifelong, toolkit that I'm going to use and pull out. Like it's not just something that you put on the back burner. And it really helps even now. So my advice for anyone in the midst of brain retraining, or if you're looking into this, is to keep going. It's worth it. I promise. It's not going to be easy, but keep pushing through. God wants so much more for you. Trust in his plan and his promises. So, thanks.
Wow. That's okay. Good.
I read it so many times and I didn't cry. And now I'm like, what?
That's my story every time. So, that's so beautiful. God has done so much in your life, my dear. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.